Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you my Scorpio October 2016 horoscope forecast. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Well, anyway, people. Well, first thing is the Sun, as far as October goes, Sun will be in Libra from October 1st to the October 22nd. And during this time, well, for Scorpio, the 12th house is what is highlighted and emphasized. So it could be a period of a little bit reduced vitality. There might be an emphasis put on perhaps their solitude, seclusion, introversion. It might be doing Libra-like things, perhaps in private, such as artwork, such as perhaps maybe their relationships, maybe doing things in connection with others, collaborative efforts, perhaps in private, and really about the relationships perhaps in their private life is what could be emphasized. Now, the Sun will be in Scorpio for this month, for as far as October goes, what I'm saying, between October 22nd and October 31st. So during that time, Scorpio might feel a little bit, and that is, of course, emphasizing and highlighting the first house for Scorpio. And during that time, Scorpio might feel a little bit revitalized and rejuvenated and feel and have a lot more energy and vitality compared to when the 12th house was highlighted. So this could be a time where a lot of that its abundance of energy might be put into Scorpio-like things, and it may perhaps with something with astrology, the occult, supernatural, and being that it's the first house of the as far as the appearance goes, it might be connected with the appearance as well, maybe even making that Scorpio a transformation. Maybe perhaps with that it could be something, even whether it's dyeing the hair or doing something, maybe deciding to work out, and it might be something connected with the appearance during this time. So anyway, also Mercury will be in Virgo from the 1st to the 7th in October. And this will, of course, highlight and emphasize the 11th house. Well, this could be a time for perhaps analytical, intellectual communication with friends, acquaintances. It could be conversations connected pertaining to health, to nutrition, to things that are involving perhaps even things involving cleaning and doing. And it could also be that consider the 11th house is also about our groups and our organizations. So it could be something where maybe there's conversations with people and perhaps in groups, for like on Facebook, for example. It might be groups that are associated with Virgo, like things such as health and nutrition, and maybe fitness is another example, and those are some things to look at as far as this goes. Now, Mercury will be in Libra from the 7th to the 24th of as far as October goes, and of course that means the 12th house will be highlighted during that time and emphasized for Scorpio. Well, that could indicate that there might be a lot of balanced communications in private. Scorpio, you might feel a little bit more, maybe more introspective than usual. Might be more communications in private, and you might be a little bit more inhibited as far as reluctant to talk as much during this time, which is not really always bad for Scorpio, because Scorpio's demeanor is often very reticent and quiet anyway. But being the fact that Mercury being in Libra, it could have something to do maybe with not maybe holding back on certain speech in order to avoid perhaps an argument, for example, being in peace-minded Libra. So anyway, well, Mercury will be in Scorpio from the 24th to the 31st, and of course that highlights the first house for Scorpio. And Scorpio might be a little bit more loquacious during this time, more talkative, than usual, and which would be a contrast to Scorpio generally, because as I stated before, Scorpio can be rather taciturn, rather, and their demeanor can be rather quiet. And you might be very vocal about Scorpio-like subjects, such as I stated before, the astrology, the occult, supernatural, talking about mysteries, maybe talking about some crime shows on TV, and really talking about things that could be very Scorpio-like in general, and maybe things connected with psychology, and maybe becoming more into this, perhaps as far as conversing about things, things connect with psychology, and maybe the reasons why, psychological reasons for things, and things of that nature. So anyway, well, Venus will be in Scorpio during this time, from the 1st to the 18th of October. And during that time, well, Venus in Scorpio can be about not wanting to relinquish the power in as far as relationships go, and being the fact that the first house is what is highlighted and emphasized during this time, this could be a time where this will come, where you will let, if you're embarking on a new relationship, Scorpio, that this will be readily known on a first impression, being that it's the first house. And also it might be a time where you might want to beautify your appearance, so to speak, and being in Scorpio, maybe looking a lot more sultry, having a more sexy type of appearance during this time, to attract perhaps that intimate, maybe an intimate relationship with perhaps a significant, potential significant other. So anyway, well, Venus will be in Sagittarius from the 18th to the 31st of October. So this could be a time where there might be, and of course the second house is what is emphasized and what is highlighted during that time. And during that time for Scorpio, there might be Scorpio might express a love for adventure, for sports, philosophy, and maybe where it might be tied to the values, and also perhaps enjoying sports, and perhaps engaging in something, or being in the outdoors, might really help Scorpio feel better about themselves, because the second house, of course, is associated with one's self-esteem. And also could be a positive time for money as well, as Venus rules money and the second house is money. So this could be a positive period for that. And being in Sagittarius, Scorpio can be very expansive and upbeat regarding this as well. Now Mars will be in Capricorn for this month. And during that time, well, of course, Capricorn, of course, Mars in Capricorn will highlight and emphasize the third house for Scorpio. Well, this could be a time for Scorpio, perhaps where there might be some contentious communications with others during this time, communications in general, but given the fact that it is in Capricorn, this will be controlled to some degree, and there will be a little bit more thinking before speaking. But keep in mind, the third house is also siblings and neighbors, so the same could apply for that as well. You might have some situations which might be disputatious with them as well, but in disciplined Capricorn, that will help that out a little bit as far as controlling the anger. And there might also be perhaps a lot of energy put into short journeys during this time. But being in Capricorn, maybe these are ones that are very of a serious nature, and maybe in some cases they might be business related. You might show a lot of abundance of mental and physical energy during that time too, Scorpio. Well, Jupiter will be in Libra during this time in October as well. So the 12th house is what's emphasized. And Jupiter, well, this could bring some luck perhaps in private relationships, maybe doing things Libra-like in private in their seclusion, such as artwork, for example. It could be something with the arts, such as music as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be actual like drawing, painting type artwork. This could be perhaps also a time where a lot of exuberance and enjoyment is expressed privately for Scorpio. And during this time too, this is a time where Jupiter is a little bit paradoxical. It's a benign planet, granted, but it also can expand and enlarge things. So if there's some kind of issues as far as anything in the few cases where were isolated cases where if Scorpio is having any psychological issues, it could expand and enlarge it during this time, because Jupiter is known to do that. So those are some things to look at as far as Jupiter in Libra goes. Now, Saturn will be in Sagittarius this month. And of course, that highlights and emphasizes the second house for Scorpio. Well, during this time, well, there could be perhaps some restrictions and limitations in financial and monetary matters, and perhaps seeing this with Sagittarius authenticity and veracity during this time. And during this time, it could be perhaps some responsibility toward making some kind of payments, which could be Sagittarius related, such as something connected, maybe something you didn't pay or you need to make payments on, such as something with higher education, something connected with long distance traveling, but doing so in a way, really making sure that you do it, because Saturn is about responsibility and showing responsibility in this, and I guess you could say being responsible in this manner, and also about putting philosophy, being philosophical about things as well, in terms of you could say putting that Sagittarius, I guess, being philosophical about matters in the second house, but responsible as well to matters pertaining to the second. So anyway, Uranus will be in Aries. And anyway, the sixth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted for Scorpio. And this could be a time for Scorpio where there might be maybe the work life, the employment life might be a little erratic and sporadic during this time. In some cases, it could indicate an unusual type health, maybe affliction for some people. It could indicate also that maybe Scorpio finds some kind of work connected with something Uranus-like, such as something with computers, electronics, or work in some kind of esoteric subject, or maybe even something innovative. Given that Uranus is in Aries, now I know it's more important by house than it is by sign, but as far as I talked about before about maybe an unusual illness or something enigmatic, it could be something connected with the head, or it could be some kind of headaches, for example, that you don't really quite understand maybe why they're happening. That's something as an example to look at. Now, Neptune will be in Pisces. And for Scorpio, okay, Pisces is going to highlight the fifth house. And during this time, Scorpio might experience some disillusionment, some confusion, deception, or delusion in matters connected with love, with romance, with children. It might be also a period where maybe you might be really fantasize about finding about that particular love, and if you're unattached and maybe not doing as much and actually acquiring that person that you want to fall in love with, Scorpio. But if you are attached, there is something to consider, that it could indicate in some cases a deceptive, maybe romantic partner during this time, so it's just to be careful with it. But at the same time, it can indicate that you may show a lot of self-sacrifice in love relationships. And also be careful too, because this is the house, the fifth house is about speculation, things of a speculative nature, and not to get involved in something where you haven't really checked out as far as, for example, a stock, something you wanted to invest in, and something that would really give you a good return. Or if it's something too speculative, be very careful and read the fine print, of course, as far as things of a speculative nature goes, such as something maybe connected with a particular stock you want to invest in, and really see see the fine line, because this could be time of deception in connection with that. Someone might promise that you can get a lot more for something, or you have a greater percentage of getting a stronger return than you actually do on something. So, well, also Pluto is in Capricorn, so, and that of course will emphasize and highlight the third house for Scorpio. Well, I don't think you're necessarily going to need a voice transformer during this time, Scorpio. It could increase the propensity a little bit in terms of maybe of something changing with the person's voice, but a lot of times it could be a transformation and change in which the way one will communicate with others in general, maybe the verbiage that's used, for example. Maybe it might be a period where you might prefer, for example, if you haven't been on the internet much, maybe to send emails as opposed to actual voice communication, as an example. Now, it could also indicate some upheavals connected with third house matters, such as the neighbors, such as siblings. Could it be that maybe a neighbor might be nefarious? In some cases, yes, I think that's very isolated, though. And that's also it's also something to consider, though. And really, also the third house is about transportation. So there might be a time where you might, Pluto can be about complete obliteration. So maybe something happens with your way you go about your short journeys, your transportation. It could be a new vehicle, for example. A destruction of something can often be the rebirth of another. So anyway, well, the North Node will be in Virgo during this time, and that means the current karmic mission and purpose, being the fact that the 11th house is what's emphasized and highlighted for Scorpio, that the current karmic mission and purpose for Scorpio could be connected with intellectual, analytical friends, finding those, having those friends that you could have intellectual conversations with, conversations connected with health, with diet, with nutrition, about staying organized. Those are some things, and really seeing the fine details in those friends. This could be a time for reviewing those people as well, and also the groups that you are involved with a lot of Virgo analysis. Now, Chiron will be in Pisces, so of course the fifth house is what is emphasized and highlighted for Scorpio. Well, during this time, this could be a period for Scorpio where you could experience some wounds, some emotional suffering, perhaps connected with love, with romance, with children. Being in Pisces, well, in some cases, Pisces does, not in some cases, Pisces does rule things that are chemical, like that are drugs, alcohol. It could indicate something with that. Just be careful, Scorpio. It could apply to children. It could apply to a love that you have, in a love relationship that you have with somebody, a romantic relationship, I should say. And really, and it's also about where during this time, on the positive end, you might be able to help others. Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer, and you might be able to help somebody in connection with finding maybe a hobby they like, maybe bringing maybe a despondent friend, for example, in bringing happiness into their life through some kind of Pisces-like hobby, such as something with water. It could be fishing, scuba diving, could be something connected with the metaphysical, something spiritual, something mystical, perhaps, and so one of those somewhere, something like that, and that could be how you might be able to help others, but at the same time, you might suffer due to maybe having an unrealistic kind of hobby or thing of fun and amusement for yourself. So that's some things to look at with the Chiron in Pisces, and of course emphasizing and highlighting the 5th house for Scorpio. Well, now the next thing is the Black Moon Lilith will be in Scorpio this month for October. And during this time, well, you may express, in a lot of cases, Scorpio is very erotic, and with the Black Moon Lilith, I mean, forget it, you might express a lot of unrestrained, uninhibited, erotic expression during this time. And it being the 1st house, this could be shown very outwardly to somebody that maybe you are involved with sexually. And on another side, though, you might appear a little bit more sinister, maybe to some people. They might get that impression. But generally, when this happens, this is generally misconstrued by others, and that is not really the case. So anyway, last but not least, the new moon in Scorpio will be on October 30th. And during this time, this could be time perhaps of a strong, powerful transformation at this time. And being in Scorpio, very intense, very powerful, and being in the moon, it could be tied into what you feel your emotional need is at that time. And it could really impact your appearance, as far as your appearance goes, of course, and being the fact that it's the 1st house, and given that it's Scorpio, it's obviously, it wouldn't be anything on a superficial level. And when I say that, it's not just about having a better outward appearance, maybe embarking on something that will improve your outward appearance. It'll be about also, that'll be connected with how you feel about yourself, have a profound impact on how you feel about yourself deeply as a person as well. And this could also be tied into making a very strong first impression on something, whether it's connected for a job or something else. And being in the 1st house, it might be where you want to talk, maybe say a lot about yourself, but given the fact that it's in Scorpio, you'll hold back probably a little bit, because Scorpio is secretive, and being the fact that you are Scorpio, you're obviously going to be fairly secretive as well in most cases. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the Scorpio October 2016 horoscope forecast. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my series on Chiron transiting the houses. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.